The shutter clicked like a heartbeat stuttering in the silence, freezing Elena's laugh mid-bloom as she twirled in the olive grove, her sundress catching the Andalusian sun like a promise. Riley lowered her camera, the weight of it suddenly too heavy, and whispered, "I can't do this anymore," her voice cracking like dry earth under summer heels. In that instant the world tilted, their world, built on stolen weekends in Seville's shadowed alleys and midnight confessions by the Guadalquivir, shattered with the force of a dropped lens cap rolling into the dust. That was 2 years ago. Give or take a shattered calendar's worth of regret. Now Riley Donovan stood in the back of a sun-baked finca on the Costa del Sol, her Nikon strapped like armor across her chest, capturing moments she wished she could unsee. The air hummed with the scent of jasmine and grilled sardines, laughter bubbling from the cocktail hour like champagne fizz. White tents fluttered against the turquoise sky, and the cliffs of Marbella plunged into the Mediterranean below, indifferent to the ache twisting in her gut. She was here as the photographer, hired by a mutual friend who didn't know better, or maybe did, and thought it was time for closure. Closure. What a tidy American word for the mess we'd left behind in Spain. Riley adjusted her lens, zooming in on the groom Javier, all easy charm and tailored linen, clinking glasses with guests who looked like they'd stepped out of a glossy travel mag. He was good for Elena, stable, kind, the kind of man who remembered anniversaries and fixed leaky faucets without complaint. Riley had liked him once, in that distant way you like a character's love interest in a book you can't finish. But today, every smile he flashed at Elena felt like a fresh cut. She'd flown in from Brooklyn 3 days ago, trading cobblestone streets for the sprawl of JFK's fluorescent purgatory, her suitcase stuffed with regrets and extra SD cards. Spain had been their escape, back when Riley was a freelance shooter scraping by on stock photos and Elena was a painter chasing grants in Madrid. They'd met at a tapas bar in Granada, Riley nursing a vermouth after a botched flamenco shoot, Elena sketching the bartender's scarred hands with charcoal that smudged her cheeks like war paint. One glance, one shared plate of patatas bravas, and the spark ignited, fierce, forbidden in the quiet Catholic corners of their upbringings, but electric in the moonlit patios where no one asked questions. Their love unfolded like a well-worn map. Lazy afternoons in Ronda's Puente Nuevo, bodies tangled in rented fincas, whispers of forever traded over glasses of Rioja. Elena's art bloomed under Riley's gaze, vibrant oils of crashing waves and hidden coves, infused with the colors of their stolen nights. Riley's portfolio filled with Elena's light, her laugh frozen in sepia, her silhouette against Alhambra's arches. They talked of galleries in New York, a life beyond the siesta haze. But love, Riley learned, was a fragile negative, easily overexposed. The betrayal came softly at first, like fog rolling in from the Strait of Gibraltar. Elena's family, devout and unyielding, caught wind of the roommate in Seville who lingered too long. Whispers turned to ultimatums. Shape up or ship out. Elena, ever the appeaser, started pulling away. Late nights at figure-drawing classes that smelled of cologne, not turpentine. Riley confronted her one humid evening in Malaga, the air thick with salt and unspoken lies. "It's Javier," Elena had confessed, tears carving rivers down her face. "He's safe. He won't ask me to choose." Safe. The word had lodged in Riley's throat like a fishbone, choking out the fight. She packed that night, leaving behind a half-exposed roll of film and a heart exposed raw. Back in the States, she buried herself in gigs, weddings, mostly ironic penance for a love lost to one. Elena's text tapered off. "I'm sorry. Be happy." Then silence, punctuated by Facebook milestones. Elena's first joint exhibit with Javier, their engagement in Ronda, the save the date that landed in Riley's inbox like a grenade. And now this. The wedding. Riley had almost said no, but the check was double her rate, and pride was a luxury she couldn't afford. She moved through the pre-ceremony chaos like a ghost, adjusting bouquets of orange blossoms, herding flower girls in lace, framing shots of the sea crashing against the rocks below the terrace. Elena was everywhere and nowhere, her laughter echoing from the bridal suite, her perfume lingering on the breeze. Riley avoided mirrors. The woman staring back was 32, going on broken, with freckles faded from too many winters and eyes that saw too much. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, guests filtered onto the cliffside chuppah. Wait, no, this was a Catholic affair, but with Spanish flair. An arch of wrought iron draped in calla lilies and fairy lights. Riley positioned herself discreetly, knee pads digging into the flagstone, capturing the aisle lined with tea-light lanterns. The violinist struck up Pachelbel's canon, and there she was, Elena, gliding down the path on her father's arm, radiant in ivory silk that hugged her curves like a lover's regret. Her hair, once wild and unbound, was pinned with pearls, her makeup flawless, masking the faint lines of doubt Riley knew by heart. The vows exchanged like poetry Riley couldn't translate. Promises of fidelity, of building a home amid the olive trees. Javier's voice steady, Elena's soft but sure. Riley's finger hovered over the shutter, blurring the kiss into a watercolor smear. She slipped away during the recessional, heart pounding, to the edge of the terrace where the wind whipped her hair. Below, the waves gnashed like accusations. You were enough, she thought, but the lie tasted bitter as bile. Cocktail hour dragged into dinner under a canopy of stars, the band shifting to sultry bossa nova. Riley worked the tables, stealing candidates of toasts and tango dips, her smile a professional mask. A cousin mistook her for the event planner, pressing a flute of cava into her hand. Beautiful day, isn't it? He said, oblivious. She nodded, sipping too fast, the bubbles burning her throat. Then the MC, a tipsy uncle with a mustache like a broom, took the mic. Ladies and gentlemen, before we cut the cake, a special surprise from the bride. Riley froze, glass midway to her lips. Elena stepped forward, microphone in hand, her gown shimmering like moonlight on water. The crowd hushed, Javier beaming beside her. Today marks the start of something incredible, Elena began, her voice carrying over the cliffs. But I wouldn't be here without the woman who captured my heart first, through a lens and beyond. Riley's stomach plummeted. The spotlight swung, hot and unforgiving, pinning her in place amid the linen-draped tables. Gasps rippled through the guests. Elena's eyes locked on hers, brown depths swirling with the storm Riley thought long weathered. Riley Donovan, she said, and the name hung in the air like incense. My ex, my muse, my friend. Come up here. You deserve the light. The terrace spun. Riley's legs moved on autopilot, camera bumping against her hip as she climbed the steps to the small stage. Whispers chased her ex? Her. Javier's smile faltered, just a flicker, but enough to crack the facade. Elena pulled her into a hug that smelled of lavender and loss, the mic pressed between them like a confessor. I hired you because I needed to see you, Elena murmured, for her ears only. One last time. To say what I couldn't then. The band faded, the crowd leaned in, and Riley felt the weight of 2 years crash down like the tide below. This wasn't closure. This was a reckoning. The hug lingered a beat too long, Elena's chin resting on Riley's shoulder, her breath warm against the shell of her ear. Thank you for being here, she whispered again, pulling back just enough to meet Riley's gaze. Up close, without the filter of distance or denial, Elena looked achingly the same. The faint scar above her left eyebrow from a biking mishap in Cordoba, the way her lashes clumped slightly from happy tears. But there was newness too, the poise of a woman who'd chosen her path, the subtle glow of certainty that Riley envied and resented in equal measure. The crowd erupted in polite applause, a smattering of cheers from the younger cousins who'd pieced together the subtext. Javier clapped loudest, his arms slung around Elena's waist in a gesture that screamed solidarity. But his eyes darted to Riley with a question mark sharp as a stiletto. She forced a nod, her throat tight, and stepped back into the shadows as the MC pivoted to cake cutting, the knife slicing through fondant like a surgeon's precision. Riley retreated to the bar, ordering a double gin and tonic with extra lime. American comfort in a Spanish glass. The bartender, a local with tattoos snaking up his forearms, slid it over with a wink. Rough gig. She managed a half-laugh, the kind that didn't reach her eyes, and nursed the drink while reviewing shots on her camera's LCD. Elena mid-vow ethereal. Javier's profile. Handsome. Their hands intertwined. A lie framed in 4K. Flashback clawed at her, unbidden. That night in Malaga, after the confession, Riley hadn't slept. She'd wandered the waterfront alone. The promenade lights blurring through unshed tears, street performers strumming guitarists that wailed like her soul. Elena's apartment had been a 5-minute walk away, but each step felt like betrayal of herself for loving so fiercely, of Elena for demanding the impossible. By dawn she'd booked a flight, leaving a note on the kitchen counter. You deserve safe. I deserve more than shadows. Childish maybe, but true. Spain had haunted her since. Every Brooklyn brownstone evoked the ochre walls of Triana. Every craft beer tasted of Elena's homemade sangria. Her career had surged. Weddings led to editorials, a solo exhibit in Chelsea. But success was hollow without someone to share the proofs. Dates came and went. A barista with a poet's tongue. A curator whose laugh echoed Elena's but never matched it. None stuck. None saw the negatives she hid. A hand on her elbow yanked her back. Hey, Shutterbug. Javier tie loosened 2 beers in hand. He offered one, his smile tentative but genuine. Mind if I join? Figure we should talk before the conga line starts. Riley hesitated, then took the bottle, clinking it against his. Sure. As long as it's not about my lighting choices. He chuckled, low and easy, leaning against the bar rail with the nonchalance of someone who'd grown up summering in Marbella. Nah, that's all you. Elena's obsessed with your eye. Says you make the ordinary epic. A pause, the sea's murmur filling the gap. Look, I knew about you too. She told me early on. Said it was the love that taught her how to love right. The gin soured in her stomach. And you're okay with that? With her dragging me up there like some exhibit? Javier shrugged, sipping his beer. It's her day. Her story. I trust her. And honestly, I think she needed to honor what you gave her. Closure, or whatever the kids call it these days. He glanced toward the dance floor, where Elena swayed with her mother, their heads bent in quiet conversation. She's happy, Riley. Really. But she misses you, not like before, but as a friend. The kind who gets why she chose this. Friend. The word landed like a demotion. Riley nodded, masking the sting with a swig. Yeah, friends. That's great. They chatted surface level after that. His tech startup in Barcelona. Her latest gig shooting indie bands in Austin. Easy like old acquaintances at a reunion. But as he walked away, clapping her on the back, Riley felt the fracture deepen. Friends. After the way Elena's fingers had once traced her spine like Braille, mapping secrets no one else could read? The reception pulsed on, a whirlwind of merengue and malbec. Riley documented it all. The bouquet toss that nearly clocked an ant in the temple, Javier's surprise speech quoting Neruda in halting Spanish. But her lens kept drifting to Elena, the way she threw her head back in joy, the subtle limp from an old ankle twist they used to ice together after hikes in the Sierra Nevada. By the time fireworks cracked over the bay, painting the sky in bursts of gold and crimson, Riley's battery was dying, and so was her resolve. She found a quiet alcove behind the finca's herb garden, rosemary thick in the air, and scrolled through old photos on her phone. Elena painting topless on a Barcelona balcony, sunlight gilding her skin, them kissing under a Puente de Triana street lamp, rain-slicked and reckless. Tears pricked, hot and unwelcome. Get it together, she chided herself. This is her happy ending. Not yours. Footsteps crunched gravel. Hiding from the magic. Elena's voice soft as the night breeze. Riley pocketed her phone, wiping her face with her sleeve. Just recharging. You know how it is. Elena sank onto the stone bench beside her, hiking up her gown to avoid the dirt. No veil now, just her bare and beautiful in the moonlight. Liar. You're thinking about that night in Malaga. The admission hung heavy as the humid air. Riley met her eyes, the brown so deep it swallowed stars. Every day. You. Every painting. Elena plucked a sprig of lavender, twirling it between fingers still ringless from the ceremony. I didn't mean to hurt you. I was scared of my family, of the world. Javier. He was the easy out. But you? You were the dream I wasn't brave enough for. Riley's chest tightened, words bubbling up like lava. Then why now? Why drag me into your spotlight and leave me burning? Because I was wrong. Elena's voice cracked, the lavender snapping in her grip. I thought safe meant happy. But I've spent 2 years painting ghosts, Riley. You're ghosts. And tonight seeing you here. God, it hit me. I betrayed us. Not just you, but me. The confession cracked something in Riley. A dam, a door, a decade of what-ifs. She reached for Elena's hand, calluses from brushes meeting the smoothness of healed wounds. You can't just say that on your wedding night. What about him? The life you're building. Elena's thumb stroked Riley's knuckle. a gesture so familiar it ached. Javier knows. We talked last night. He's understanding. But this isn't about undoing vows. It's about truth. I loved you first. Fiercest. And I never stopped. Fireworks boomed overhead, illuminating Elena's face in flashes of regret and resolve. Riley pulled her hand away, not in anger but survival. Truth doesn't fix broken lenses, Elena. It just shows the cracks clearer. They sat in silence as the display faded, embers drifting like fireflies toward the sea. The party thrummed on, oblivious, but in that garden time folded back on itself. Two women on the precipice, not of a cliff but of choices long deferred. By midnight the cake was crumbs, the dance floor slick with spilled kava. Riley packed her gear in the bridal suite's antechamber, the room still scented with Elena's perfume. A knock, soft, hesitant. Elena, now in a simpler slip dress, Javier's jacket draped over her shoulders. "Walk with me," she asked. They slipped out a side door, down a winding path to the private beach below the finca. Moonlight silvered the sand, waves lapping like hesitant confessions. Elena kicked off her heels, toes curling into the cool grains. "Remember our first trip here? Cabo de Gata? We swam naked till dawn." Riley smiled despite herself, shedding her boots. "You nearly drowned chasing bioluminescent plankton. Called it fairy dust." Laughter mingled with the surf, light as sea foam. They waded in, hems soaking, the water chilly against summer-warmed skin. For a moment it was them again, no betrayals, no altars. Just two souls adrift in the Mediterranean's embrace. But reality crested like a rogue wave. "What happens tomorrow?" Riley asked, voice barely above the tide. Elena stopped, water swirling at their knees. "I go home with him. Build the life I chose. But you go back to capturing truths I was too afraid to live." She cupped Riley's face, foreheads touching, breath sinking. "I'm sorry. For the shadows. For not fighting." The kiss was inevitable, soft, salty, a valediction, not a vow. Riley tasted the future on Elena's lips. Bittersweet, fleeting. When they broke apart, Elena's eyes glistened. "Write your story, Ree. The one where you win." Dawn crept in as they climbed back, the path steeper now, laden with what they'd unearthed. At the finca's gate, Javier waited, silhouette patient against the rising sun. He nodded to Riley, no judgment, just quiet grace. "Safe travels." Elena hugged her fierce, then let go. Riley walked to her rental car, camera bag heavy on her shoulder, the first light gilding the olive's gold. She drove toward Malaga's airport, radio crooning old Joan Baez, tears blurring the rearview. Spain receded, but the ache? That was coming home with her. Or so she thought. 2 weeks later, in her Brooklyn walk-up, a package arrived. No return address, wrapped in brown paper smelling faintly of time. Inside, a canvas, Elena's hand unmistakable. Waves crashing on Marbella cliffs, two figures entwined in the foam, faces blurred but souls sharp. Tucked in the frame, a note. "Your light. Always." Riley hung it above her bed, the colors bleeding into her dreams. Betrayal's scar softened, not erased, into something human, flawed, forgiving. She picked up her camera, booked a flight not to Spain but to the Grand Canyon. Time for new exposures. Months blurred into a rhythm Riley could almost call healing. The Grand Canyon shoot was a revelation. Endless horizons swallowing her smallness, the Colorado River carving canyons deeper than any heartbreak. Her photos made the rounds. National Geographic blog, a spread in Sunset magazine. Offers trickled in, national parks, coastal drives, even a residency in the Smokies. She said yes to all, chasing light like a penance, leaving Brooklyn's gray for America's wild veins. Elena's painting stayed her anchor, a daily meditation. Some nights Riley traced its edges with her fingertips, imagining the brushstrokes as Elena's confessions. The blue so turbulent, the figures so tender. No contact after the note, no calls, no likes on Insta. Radio silence, respectful as a truce. Riley told herself it was closure, the kind that sticks. But solitude has a way of whispering doubts, and in quiet motels from Zion to Yellowstone, hers grew loud. Fall brought a curveball. An email from Elena, their old Granada roommate, now curating a queer art expo in Madrid. Elena's exhibiting. "Solo. Your photos would pair perfectly, retrospective of your time together. No pressure, but she'd love it. Riley stared at the screen in a Taos Adobe. Rain pattering the Vegas. Love it. Or torture. She drafted replies. Hell yes. Absolutely not. Maybe. In the end, she hit send on a cautious intrigued. Details? The expo was slated for spring theme. Echoes of exile. Queer creators reclaiming lost loves. Fitting, Riley thought as she culled her archives. 200 shots from their era, winnowed to 50. Prints arrived at the gallery weeks later, each matted in white, titled simply, Elena in Repose, Seville 2022. Cliffs at Dawn. Cabo de Gata 2021. No people, just places haunted by ghosts. She flew into Madrid on a whim 2 days early, nerves jangling like loose change. The city welcomed her with churros and chill wind off the Retiro, but the weight of memory pressed. Their old haunts. Plaza Mayor's fountains where they'd shared gelato under lanterns. The Reina Sofia, Elena's favorite for Guernica's raw scream. Riley wandered, camera slung, snapping street scenes to steady her hands. By evening, she was at the gallery. A sleek space in Malesana, graffiti walls tamed by track lighting. Elena enveloped her in a bear hug, all bohemian scarves and berets. You made it. Elena's not here yet. Flying in from Barcelona tomorrow. Javier swamped with a merger, so it's just us girls catching up. Us girls. The phrase chafed, but Elena's warmth disarmed. Over tapas in a nearby bodega, jamon and manchego sharp as nostalgia, they reminisced. Elena's infamous absinthe phase. Riley's botched tattoo of a compass rose that pointed south instead of true north. You're glowing, Elena said, pouring more vino tinto. Success suits you. Riley shrugged, cheese crumbling under her fork. Or distance. Spain feels different now. Good different. Less like a bruise, more like a scar. She paused, vino loosening tongues. How's she? Really? Elena's eyes softened, swirling her glass. Settled. Happy, I think. But the paintings. They're you. Layers of what? Javier, supportive, frames the canvases himself, but he knows her heart's got a corner painted in your colors. The admission settled like sediment. Riley nodded, changing the subject to Elena's latest sculpture. Twisted rebar lovers embracing thorns. Sleep came fitful that night in her hose towel, dreams of waves and wedding veils tangling like kelp. Opening night was a crush. Expats in silk scarves, locals with ironic mustaches. A DJ spinning Rosalia remixes low. Riley's wall drew murmurs, intimate. Raw dot. And she floated through, champagne flute in hand, deflecting compliments with deflects. Then the door chimed and there she was. Elena in an emerald shift that hugged her like envy, hair loose in waves that begged fingers. Their eyes met across the room, a current arcing silent. Elena wove through, pulling Riley into a hug that smelled of home, paint and possibility. You came, she breathed. Couldn't miss my own ghosting. Riley pulled back, smirking to hide the tremor. The shots hold up? Better than hold up. They breathe. Elena's hand lingered on her arm, thumb brushing a freckle. Thank you for lending me your eyes. The night unfolded in vignettes. Toasts to resilience. A queer choir covering Billie Holiday under the gallery's skylight. Javier arrived late, suit rumpled from travel, kissing Elena's cheek with the ease of habit. He shook Riley's hand firm, no shadows now, just a man who'd chosen partnership over possession. Your work's stunning, he said. Makes me wish I picked up a camera instead of code. They talked shop over canapes. His AI ethics startup, her Canyon series. Elena orbited, drawn back by admirers praising her latest. A triptych of fractured mirrors reflecting olive groves and ocean voids. Inspired by a betrayal? One patron probed, all faux academic tease. Elena's gaze flicked to Riley. By forgiveness. Mine mostly. The word hung electric. Later, as the crowd thinned, the three of them lingered by Riley's prints. Javier excused himself for a call, leaving them in the hush. He's good, Riley said, unprompted. You picked well. Elena leaned against the wall, arms crossed like armor. He is. We are. But seeing this, your lens on our past, it stirs things. Good things. Hard things. Riley's pulse quickened, the air thick with unsaid. Like what? Like wondering if I chose safe over soul. Elena stepped closer, voice a whisper. If I betrayed not just us, but the woman I could be with you. The gallery spun, echoes of laughter fading to white noise. Riley cupped Elena's elbow, grounding. You're enough as you are. We both are. That's the humanistic bit. No villains, just humans fumbling toward light. Tears welled in Elena's eyes, spilling over. I love him. But I loved you different. Deeper maybe. And letting that go. It carved me hollow. Then fill it, Riley urged, thumb dashing a tear. Paint the hollows. Let them be beautiful. Javier returned then, sensing the gravity, slipping an arm around Elena without intrusion. Car's waiting. Early flight tomorrow. He nodded to Riley. Coffee before you head out? My treat. She agreed, and they parted with cheek kisses, European custom, American ache. Alone in the gallery's afterglow, Riley traced a print. Their hands intertwined in Granada's snow-dusted Albayacin. Echoes, she thought. Not exiles. The coffee meet was at a Chueca cafe. Sunlight slanting through awnings like spotlights. Javier ordered cortados, Elena a latte with oat milk. Her new ritual, post their vow to go plant-based. Conversation flowed easy. Travel mishaps, a shared laugh over Elena's latest paramour. A sculptor who welded chains as jewelry. But undercurrent pulled. Elena's foot brushing Riley's under the table, accidental on purpose. I have something for you, Elena said midway, sliding a small parcel across the zinc bar. Inside, a leather-bound journal, pages filled with sketches. Riley's face in repose, canyon sketched from descriptions in old emails. Your story, Elena explained. The one I saw through your lens. Riley's throat closed. It's perfect. Javier cleared his throat gently. And this is my cue. I've got meetings, but... He stood, kissing Elena lingeringly. To Riley. Take care of her heart a bit longer? It's still half yours. He left and the air shifted, charged, vulnerable. Elena's hand found Riley's across the table. What if I don't want safe anymore? What if Javier and I open things? Not to replace but to reclaim. The proposal landed like an exposure bomb, blinding, overbright. Riley searched her face. No desperation, just quiet courage. You do that? For us. For me. For the love I buried. Elena's grip tightened. But only if you want. No spotlights, no stages. Just us again. Slowly. Riley's mind raced. Logistics of oceans, ethics of entanglement, the raw risk of reopening scars. But heart overrode, whispering yes in the language of waves. Slowly, she echoed. Like dawn over the cliffs. They walked Madrid's boulevards after. Arms linked, tourists parting like Red Sea. No kisses, no declarations. Just the humanistic grace of possibility. At the Atocha station, Riley boarded her train to Barcelona for a layover flight. Elena waving from the platform, journal clutched like talisman. Back in Brooklyn, spring unfurled in dogwoods in doubt. Emails pinged. Elena's tentative, Javier's on board. Therapy starts next week. Riley's replies. Measured, hopeful. She shot a wedding in the Hamptons. Irony's echo, framing grooms in their joy without the old pang. Summer brought the first visit. Elena solo for a week in Riley's walk-up. They cooked paella on a hot plate. Burned the saffron but laughed through it. Nights tangled in sheets, not frantic but reverent. Rediscovering contours like cartographers. Javier called midway, voice warm on speaker. Tell me everything. No edits. Betrayal's ghost lingered. But forgiveness wove it into tapestry. Elena returned to Barcelona, carrying prints of Brooklyn stoops. Riley to her lens, now capturing not just light, but layers. Fall Expo in Madrid sold out. Echoes resonating, reviews hailing a queer odyssey of return. Riley and Elena stood together at closing, Javier toasting with cava. To spotlights shared. Winter wrapped Brooklyn in frost, but Riley's world thawed incremental. Elena's visits became ritual. Odd weekends synced around Javier's conferences, their triad navigating with the awkward grace of tightrope walkers. Therapy sessions via Zoom, Javier's idea, unraveled threads. His insecurities masked as chivalry, Elena's guilt as overcompensation, Riley's walls built from Brooklyn bricks. They laughed at the jargon. Polyamory primers, boundary boot camps. But beneath, trust knit slow like mending a favored coat. Spring bloomed risky. Elena proposed a sabbatical. 3 months in an Andalusian cortijo, the three of them. No weddings, no mergers. Just us rebuilding. Javier hesitated. His startup teetered on a funding cliff, but Elena's eyes, fierce with that old fire, swayed him. Riley packed light. Lenses, sketchpads, the journal now dog-eared with their joint scribbles. The cortijo perched near Rhonda. Whitewashed walls hugging a courtyard of pomegranate trees. Mornings. Coffee on the terraza, Javier grinding beans while Elena and Riley sketched the mist-shrouded gorge. Afternoons. Hikes to the Puente Nuevo, hands linked in a chain. Javier's practical grip, Elena's artistic, Riley's steady. Evenings. Communal cooking, paella pans hissing over open flames, stories swapped like spices. Javier opened up about his own closets. A Catholic boy from Bilbao, coming out at 25 to parents who prayed harder than they hugged. I get the betrayal, he admitted one night, stars pricking the sky. Mine was self-inflicted. Riley nodded, passing the Rioja. Hurts universal. Humanizes us, maybe. Elena's art exploded. Canvases of triptychs, figures intertwined not in conflict but harmony. Waves cradling cliffs, lights piercing fog. Riley documented it all, her photos evolving. Not solitary horizons but populated. Javier reading by lamplight, Elena's brush midstroke, their shadows merging on stucco. Javier even picked up her spare Nikon, fumbling macros of wild time, his engineer precision yielding surprising poetry. But paradise breeds tempests. Midway through, doubt stormed in. Riley woke one dawn to find Elena gone. Slipped to the studio at 4 a.m. Easel streaked with furious blues. It's too much, Elena confessed over breakfast, eyes red-rimmed. This love for both of you. I feel like I'm diluting it, spreading myself thin as watercolor. Javier reached for her hand. Or enriching. Like alloy, stronger for the mix. Riley stayed silent, heart hammering. The old fear resurfaced. Not enough. Memories of Malaga's waterfront. Elena's choice like a door slammed. Talk to us, she urged finally. Not at shadows. They did, raw and relentless. A day holed up in the sala, cushions scattered, tears-soaking tile. Elena unpacked the guilt, betraying Riley's trust by choosing Javier. Now betraying his by reclaiming her. Javier admitted envy. Not of bodies but the history he couldn't touch. The shorthand jokes from Granada nights. Riley voiced the quiet terror. Loving two, losing both. By dusk, exhausted but unbowed, they emerged changed. No grand epiphanies, just agreements. Weekly check-ins, solo dates woven in, Elena and Riley to Seville's flamenco dens, Javier and Elena to Barcelona's beaches. Riley and Javier? A tentative hike in the Sierras, bonding over bad puns and better views. You're good for her, he said at the summit, wind whipping. And weirdly for me. Makes me braver. Summer's end loomed. Funding secured for Javier's venture. Riley's Canyon book deal inked. Departure day. Suitcases by the door, cortijo echoing emptier. Elena hugged them both, fierce, whispering promises. This isn't end. It's ellipsis. Back in their orbits, Riley to shoots in the Adirondacks, Elena to exhibits in Lisbon, Javier to boardrooms, connection sustained via pixels. Group chats with sunset selfies, private calls laced with longing. Fall brought Riley's book launch in Soho, Elena and Javier flying in for the reading. She dedicated it to two lights who taught me depth of field. The crowd a mix of murmurs and applause, toasts raising to unconventional muses. Winter holidays tested. Elena's family in Valencia, traditional as tapas, nary a word of the poly life, just veiled barbs about modern follies. Riley hosted a quiet solstice in Brooklyn, Javier remote via video, fire crackling as they exchanged gifts. Elena a silver locket with their initials entwined, Riley a custom lens hood etched with spotlight shared. Spring circled back to Madrid, the Expo's anniversary. This time, Echoes 2. Resonances, their triads collab. Elena's oils, Riley's chromes, Javier's co-generated fractals overlaying both. Opening night buzzed electric. Critics calling it a manifesto of queer multiplicity. Collectors bidding fierce. In the after-party haze, Javier pulled Riley aside. I love her enough to love this. You. The words landed soft, no spotlight glare. Riley clinked her glass to his. Ditto. Humans messy but worth the frame. Years folded like a well-edited reel. Elena's gallery in Barcelona thrived. Javier's app revolutionizing ethical AI. Riley's coffee table tomes stacking on shelves. They gathered seasonal. Thanksgivings in Andalusia with Elena's chaos. Christmases in Brooklyn's snow-globed glow. Conflicts arose. Jealousies flicker over a solo trip. Logistics strained by time zones. But each weathered with tools honed. Honesty as shutter speed. Forgiveness as wide aperture. One golden October atop Rhonda's bridge, Elena proposed anew. Not vows but visions. A home, she said, wind tousling all three. Here or there. Walls wide enough for our stories. Javier grinned, squeezing hands. Riley, camera forgotten around her neck, nodded. With a darkroom. And studio. And server farm. Laughter echoed off the gorge. A harmony hard won. No perfect endings, life's no tidy print. But in the interplay of lights they found their focus. Love not as spotlight but constellation. Each star vital, none dimmed. Riley captured it later. 3 silhouettes against the plummeting vista. Hands linked, faces turned to the sun. The shot, hung in their eventual cortijo, bore no title. Just a note on the back, our echo. Infinite. In the end, betrayal's shadow yielded to grace. Not erasure but integration. Human after all. Flawed frames telling truest tales.